Prashant, thank you so much for joining us in this Fire Up series of startup founder interviews. We are trying to talk to the founders. Each startup has something interesting they've done, which is even if it's very early stage startup, there are things that they're doing that might be helpful to others. So we're trying to extract those little specific things from each startup and then creating these videos that we're sharing with the others.
Nice.
So with you, like there are not too many student startups that happen, and very few of them actually go past the early stages into the market, get traction, get funding, and then get an exit. So we thought, like, why don't we talk about your journey as a student entrepreneur, starting as a student entrepreneur? How do you start up as a student? So that's the topic for discussion with you. Because all of you were students when you started. You got your initial investment when you were still students. Well, if I remember, like, your first investment was still, you still hadn't graduated yet at that time. You hadn't cleared the code yet at that time. And it's been an amazing journey. So that's what we're going to discuss. So just to set the context, Prashant, if you can just quickly narrate your journey with Commute, the whole entrepreneurial journey, I mean, pre-Commute and then Commute, that will set the context, and then we can discuss the student part.
Yeah. So we started Commute in 2015, August, September. At that time, we started with the idea of doing it. So as we keep saying, so we all had a party friends, and after that, Hemant, one of the co-founders, he popped up with the idea that we should do something about it, and there's a problem, there's a huge gap in the market in the transportation space. So we discussed in the idea after that for a couple of hours, and the next day, actually we discussed in detail again, and we actually felt there is a pain point in the transportation space, and we should address that. So that's how we started the first baby steps, doing the market research and seeing the problem ourselves, that is the problem, first 2 months. And then the first MVP we launched with very few customers, around 10-15 customers in November 2015. And slowly it picked up. So what Commute was addressing the problem? So Ola and Uber was able to cater to only top 2-3% of the population. And most of the population, even the employees, are not able to afford it, especially in the peak hours, office hours, because of the surge pricing. So for the next 20-30% of the population who are looking for more affordable transportation than Ola and Ubers, and at the same time more reliable and comfortable transportation than public transport. So there's a huge gap there which we saw can be addressed, and that's what we try to address with minibuses. So they're more affordable than Ola and Uber, and same time more comfortable than public transport, where we provide a guaranteed AC seat and we provide all the features like tracking to the customers. So that was the idea of the Commute, and we started in November and with the MVP, and then we were solving a pain point, and it picked up, and we iterated the product, and then we got traction. And by that, we exited in 2018, almost in the same time, September, 3 years after running Commute. So this Careem is a Middle East-based company, so they wanted to run their own mass transportation vertical. So they were looking for startups across the world to acquire or acquire and then start in the Middle East region, the mass transport. And then they came to know about us, and then they liked the product and stuff. So that's how the acquisition happened after running for 3 years.
So, I mean, it's an amazing journey. It's all from the time you started, it was not even 4 years, right? By the time the Careem acquisition happened? 3 years. So, and then that too in a space which is kind of mired in regulation and policy ambiguity. So I think that's something that itself is a topic to discuss, right? I mean, deal with government and policies. Though you're not a customer, government is a key stakeholder here. They play spoil sport. But maybe there's a next topic. We'll talk to you again about that. But just going back to the starting, right? So you said the idea came as a student. So at a party, I think all the best things happen in a party. So the idea, and then what are the next things you did? I mean, like, just to, if you can narrate what happened in the next few days, next few weeks. How did the idea kind of take a more concrete form?
Okay. So the initial thing we thought is first to test whether we have pain points. So now we have an assumption that there's a pain point. So we actually have to test whether there's a pain point or not. So the first thing we did is send a survey to our friends in 500 people and friends in different IT companies. So we were very careful about the sample size while doing the sampling. We chose companies which are small, which are big, and companies which pay very high, and then average backwards. So we made sure the sample size is diverse, and we sent a sample to 500 people. But unfortunately, the results of the sample we felt are not very accurate because Indians are bad at saying no. So most of them are like, we'll take the service. It's nice if you do it. Pain points. So we're not satisfied with the feedback or the one we got from the online survey. So we tried to test it ourselves. So without any technology, nothing. We hired two small cars, the buses, Taveras, 8-seaters, and that itself is a big pain. So we were 23 at the time when we started. So we went to the lot of vendors, and nobody gave us the vehicles. They said transportation is a very complex industry, and it's where most of the people who run are related to politics. So it's a very closed industry. And then a lot of people said they won't give us the vehicles. And finally, we convinced one vendor to give a couple of vehicles. So every day we were still in campus at that time. But most of the residential areas are in the other part of the city in Hyderabad, Selvi Nagar, Kukupalli, and all the other side. So every day morning, we used to take this around 5:36. We used to take these vehicles and then start to the other end of the city. And then we used to offer free rides to people. And initially, we were very skeptical because, imagine going on the street and telling some woman that we'll offer a free ride in the vehicle, especially at those times, there were a lot of incidents happening like that. So we used to take the triple IT ID card saying that we are students and then we are doing so and so market research. And then offer free rides to people. So the idea is people will not spend 1 hour or 2 hours with us. So we used to offer free rides, and on the way from Alvinagar to High-Tech City or different areas for 1 hour, we used to take feedback from the people. So that exercise helped a lot, getting our hands dirty without an app, nothing, but we just want to understand in detail. So we did this exercise for 3 weeks, every day, 2 vehicles. And here also we made sure that sample size is different. Good neighborhoods, middle class neighborhoods, and then very far, short distance. So we made sure the samples is very diverse. I think this is one thing which is very crucial in the initial stage. So we shouldn't let our biases come in the decision-making process. The data should speak. So the sample size should be as diverse as possible. So yeah.
Good.
Yeah. So after doing this for 3 weeks, so we are convinced that the problem is very significant than what we expect. So we started to see a pattern among the pain points of the customers after doing 3 weeks. And then, meanwhile, in this 20 days, two of the co-founders who did tech, so they actually launched a very basic app. It's a very basic app, like pick a point, drop point, book. That's it. We didn't have even wallet when we launched. So that's very pure MVP. So Lean Startup book was part of one of the courses in 4th year Satish Chandra taught. So we sort of followed most of the things from the Lean Startup at the initial days, and it helped us. So we built a very lean product and then released in 20 days. And a few of the customers who we offered free rides, we told them, okay, enough of free rides. Now we downloaded an app. Like if you download the app and then book, then it's a free ride. So because we didn't have time to launch the wallet yet, so that's how we convinced customers to download for free rides. And then few people started downloading and taking the rides. And then after a week, we launched a wallet. And then people slowly started paying. So we started with 2 cars, and then we increased it to bigger 12-seaters. And then it increased. So we increased the frequency. There was pull from the people. And then we are pushing an update every week. So the tech team is working parallelly. We all used to work from a small, my flat. And then 24 hours. It used to be 24 hours. Tech team will come and work in the nights because they're working in the office. And then push an update in the morning and go to their offices. And then operations team, all of other business teams, we used to wake up in the morning and take rides to other universities. So it was like working 24 hours initial days. It was busy. And then slowly it picked up. And then 50K, we raised money from 50K Ventures first round. And then that's how we took the office in CIE. So until we raised first round, we didn't take any office space or something, working from different places at all.
So that was after how many months? About 9 months, 9 to 12 months? The 50K money when it came?
5 months.
5 months.
Yeah, 5-6 months. So we put all our savings, all of us. Some of them worked, they put their savings. Some of them who didn't work like me, I borrowed from my parents. And that's how we put all our savings. That 6 months we sustained with those savings. We didn't offer too many deep discounts or something, and that helped us a lot in future. Initially, we didn't offer because we have very little money. So customers were paying from the initial days itself. And the traction is good. And then after 6 months, we raised in March 2016 or so, after starting 6 months. So we raised the first round. And
so
then
how did you, in that period, I mean, the biggest problem that any student startup faces, especially in their graduating year, is the temptation of the job and the social pressures around taking a job,
yeah,
like both ways. And
yeah,
the personal temptation is an external push also.
yeah,
So how did you, the five of you, counter that? You're five of you, right, founders?
yeah, six of us, yeah.
Six of you. So how did the six of you, all of you in the same boat, probably have to deal with similar pressures. So how did you manage to deflect that whole placement, either the temptation or the pressure, either one or both?
So four of them were already working then. They were in BTech, and then me and Hemant, three of us in dual degree. So the BTech people were still working. So we told them you quit only after the fundraising is confirmed. So they have been still working until Jan, Feb, until the fundraising is confirmed. So that's why they are coming in the night and then developing a product, and then morning they were going to offices. So because all of us quit initially, there will be a lot of pressure from their parents and stuff, because without any product market fit or raising money, if we this thing. So in India, we always need this external validation. If someone else funded the startup, then it's going well. The parents will be more comfortable.
Yes.
So these people, they were still working. Slowly, one of them, when we getting traction and when we raised money, slowly all of them quit and joined. So that's how we detected the people who are already working. And people who were doing in the dual degree, so it was a bit easy for us, because parents clearly didn't know how much of research we are doing, how much of startup we are doing. So there's a very...
So you just use the lack of sufficient understanding to your advantage. So they were thinking you're still studying and then you're working on the startup.
Yeah.
No, that's a very interesting point. But what would you have done if this was undergrad and there was a clear time in place, right? You're going to graduate that April, and if it was still the funding was happening after that, what do you think a student founder should do or could do to deflect that pressure? Temptation is a personal matter. If they're going to get tempted, then they should be doing a startup anyway. So that's a very personal thing. So here, they're not getting tempted. How do you deflect these social pressures to take a job, family pressures and otherwise? What are your thoughts? You've seen other students do it.
Yeah. So I think it is always about convincing parents. So initially, they want best for us, but they come from very different background. Now things are much better than we started last 4-5 years. Entrepreneurship has got much of this thing. Things are, I feel, a bit better than this. But I think it's all about convincing and telling them about the long-term picture. So always Sangals are always used to keep saying, which I like a lot. It's not the first job in your life that matters, but it's the last job. He used to keep telling us a lot in BTech. So the first 1-2 years, it's okay to take. It's a long time. It's not a sprint. It's a marathon. So even the 1-2 years, you try different things and then come back doing a job. There are a lot of founders from IIIT itself who started and they didn't work. They came back to normal jobs, but it worked out well for them in the jobs as well, because the learning curve will be very good. So it's about giving the context to them. What, even if it doesn't work, what will they benefit from it, and how it will help in their long-term growth. So this communication and context building is very much important. That's how you're able to convince your parents.
So at some level, it is just your conviction. If you believe in it, then you can convince the parents. That they should see that, look, this guy is not throwing away his life. He's doing something that he cares for. I think that's what should come across. That's the point you're making.
Yeah, and then it's all about examples. Now they have different examples to say that I actually spoke to a few of the parents from my juniors in IIIT. So they wanted to start, and then their parents are a bit convinced, and they want me to talk to their parents that how we took the risk and it worked out. So now I did that for a few people, and then they launched their startups. Now they're working. So now there are examples also for parents to show. So if they understand the context, I think things will be in much better place. And I don't think people should waste time in convincing everybody in the extended family as well. That will never happen. If just your parents are convinced about that, is fine.
True. Absolutely true. That's a waste of time trying to go beyond that. Immediate family, parents is the primary focus, and they are convinced, and the rest is okay. So the other thing that happens, of course, one is you rightly put, when you start any startup as a student or not, any startup, you need to validate and be sure that you're reading the market correctly. That's the most important thing, to make sure you're onto something. And so that's absolutely something that anybody should do. And a student startup has the luxury of doing it also, because if it fails, if they quit a job, then the risks are much higher. But as a student startup, so they have the luxury, but they should do it. Second thing is, of course, how to deal with the whole placement pressures. And that, like you said, if you believe in it, then everything else will work out. You can convince people required to work.
Yeah.
Third thing was the whole how to sustain the funding. One good thing is, like I always tell, if the student has, I don't encourage it anymore these days because very few student startups do it right, especially when it comes from most colleges. I mean, they don't do it right, so I don't encourage it much these days because. But I always tell them, look, if you want to start up, all you need is your last month's mess bill.
Mm-hmm.
If that money you have as a student, you can start up. Your college will allow you to stay in the hostel.
Mm-hmm.
Money for the mess bill and your phone bill, that's enough. That's all you need. Whether you get from your parents or you get from your savings, you have that 6 months, you can start off.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
right? Now, so the short-term sustainability is not an issue financially. So long as you convince their parents, there are no social pressures, they can manage. Pile on somebody's flat or continue the hostel, especially student.
Yeah.
In terms of the challenge, you got lucky that you got to raise the angel round within 5 months, right? Almost around the time that you might have graduated, you raise the money.
Yeah.
So, but 5 months is little early for most startups. It might be more like 9 to 12 months before they can raise an angel round, assuming they're doing it right. It may still be 9 to 12 months. What would you think should be the funding approach? I mean, like, because they may need to hire some people, their own cost, yes, they can manage because they've already committed for a year or year and a half. If they hire people, so what are some of the initial funding approaches before you can raise a formal round from an angel network or such?
Okay. So for us, actually, even though it's 5 months, there was a lot of operational costs of hiring these vehicles and stuff. So there was a lot of operational costs involved for us. So that's the reason we wanted to raise very fast because whatever funds we have, they're dying. But for most of the startup, there's no that operational aspect of it. If it's a pure tech startup and it's marketplace, and there's not much of money they need to invest in the operations, so they can extend up to 7 or 8 months or 9 months up to it. And the famous one is the friends and family round, which happens a lot in Silicon Valley and other places. So before they go to formal rounds, formal round or angel investment round, they raise from friends or family. So this happens frequently across.
What do you think should that amount be? Like, supposing if you didn't raise the angel round in by then, like March or April, when you raised the angel round, what would your friends and family round amount have been if you had raised?
Okay, so I think $50,000 or something like that would have been helpful.
So 30-40 lakhs is what, and because you will have some expenses, you have to hire some people.
Yeah.
So you will, and that will take you for another 6 months.
Yeah, easily another 5-6 months. Yeah.
Okay, before when you should have enough value that you can raise a proper angel round, few crores at least. So okay, so that is now. Are there other challenges like as a student startup? Okay, you are a large team of founders, so you didn't need to. Most of it could be done by the founding team itself in the initial days. But if you're a small team, only say 2 founders or such, and you need to hire a few people, what are those challenges? I mean, your first hire, what are the challenges?
You're right. For us, we have been fortunate because most of the tech operations, everything is handled by co-founders until like first 7-8 months until we hire people. But the biggest challenge in hire is the same thing. So we hired one intern from IIIT itself, and he's now with us in Dubai. So he's now lead engineer. He's very young, passed out in 2015. We hired this intern, and then a lot of friends from IIIT itself and their parents told him not to take the employment. Like internship is fine, but don't take the employment at Commut. It's a very small startup. Nobody knows where it goes and stuff. But I don't know what clicked for him, but he believed in us, and then. His first job is Commut, and then his learning curve was so much that he became a lead engineer in 2 years. So I think that's a big challenge. Like a lot of people around society and people around you don't want you to join a startup, which is very small stage. Even though after we raised money, so people don't believe it. So that perception of risk is a very difficult thing for hiring initially. Good people at least.
So how did you offset? So I'm sure the internship must have helped. So he had come and experienced the team, the work, and the whole thing. Because this is something you can't communicate in an interview.
Yeah.
So they have experienced it because they have to feel it for them to be able to make the call. So internship, are there anything else that you would suggest if it will help in convincing them to understand?
I think we should convince them about the learning curve and the other things, leadership and other things, because a lot of us don't have the long-term approach. I think that is the biggest problem. So people who have long-term approach, they tend to work in startups. They will let go the short-term gains and then focus on the long-term gain. Like if I do work in a startup for anymore, my learning curve will be high, and after that will be helpful for this. So I think when you're interviewing or like trying to convince someone, I always used to tell about the long-term approach to people. Like if you focus for this short point of time, 1 year or 2 years, you're building something very good, and then your learning curve will be very high, and then we'll give you a lot of freedom. So I used to offer these kind of things because we were only able to offer the market salaries or something like that, and we are hiring people. So that is a big challenge.
So it's fantastic. I think this is all very, very relevant points. We will try and summarize these. Now, before we sign off, one growth hack tip from your experiences with Commute, during Commute and even post Commute after getting acquired by Careem. One growth hack tip that you would share with other startups.
So there's no one growth hack as such for me, but I think one thing is like be obsessed about the customer. So this is a very small thing, but a lot of times, a lot of companies miss the track of it. So founders, CEO or founders should be very, very disciplined, and then make sure that we're always obsessed about customers, and then we're making hands dirty. So what happens in the initial days, founders will take the feedback from the customers directly. And then there's a constant feedback loop from the customers. But at some point, well, founders like hire other people, and then they focus on funding and the other things. I mean, most of the startups, that loop breaks. So there's no proper feedback channel from customers to this thing. And I'm surprised to see that in very high-funded and well-established startup also, they die because there's the touch with the customer and the obsession with the customers has somehow gone from the culture. So that is one growth hack, I would say, like not a growth hack as such, but being obsessed about customers and making your hands dirty. So I remember we were selling in the initial days, going to the IIIT junction and holding hugs like use Commut as all those kind of things. So we were not shy at all to do any kind, make our hands dirty, and then get whatever is to be done to get the sales, like whether it's going to sell on streets, do it. And we've gone to a lot of companies, to over 100 plus companies in Hyderabad. We put up a stall, we requested them, and then we used to do offline campaigning and all other growth hacks, which was very relevant to us because with zero amount, we were able to reach our target audience. So for every other startup, so these kind of lot of hacks. So another example is Zomato, beautiful example. From when we see from outside, we think Zomato spends a lot of money on advertising and marketing. But so worked inside Zomato, they told me like it's all about very good growth hacks, and Zomato doesn't spend much of money. Marketing and other stuff. So there are a lot of examples where companies do very beautiful growth hacks.
So you have to get very creative in terms of how you try and reach your customers, but that obsession should be there. The obsession to go connect with the customers should always be. Then you'll find a ways to it. I mean, that's I think very valid point. I still remember, of course, use Rajinikanth when Rajinikanth can help. I remember the Kabali bus. That you sponsored.
So whatever it takes to get the name out and then people know about us. Because in B2C startups, that's the main thing. Like people should know about it.
So you have to be seen in the right target segment. You have to be seen. So fantastic. So Prasanth, thank you so much for taking the time and stay safe. And like good that Dubai also is like now warming up and activities picking up. So all the best in your journey with Careem, and then I'm sure sometime soon you will do your next startup. And we hope it will be at CIE again.
Seriously, thank you so much.
Thanks.